Former President Jacob Zuma's prosecution of journalist Karyn Maughan and prosecutor Downer has been postponed. Let's get those details from Dasen Thathiah now, who's standing by. We did hear from the judge that it'll be postponed, this matter, until the 2nd of February 2023. Were there any other details that are worth noting, Dasen?
Well, Rafiwa, let me just start with this. Just a short while ago, the former president walked out. He's making his way out of the courthouse across the road. That's where his supporters are gathered. He's expected to address them. But as you rightfully said, this case is due back in court in February next year. But before that, there's also that application that needs to be dealt with by journalist Karyn Maughan as well as Downer. But one of the discussions around this case is the implications for media freedom. And to that end, the employers of Karyn Maughan, News 24, has been backing her completely in this case. I'm now joined by the editor-in-chief, Adrian Basson. Mr. Basson, thank you so much. I think I'll start with a tweet that you put out a short while ago. You said that we should remember this day. It's an important one. Just unpack that a bit for us.
Thank you. Look, I think it's quite a dark day for democracy when a former president who swore allegiance to the Constitution can bring a journalist to court and can criminally charge a journalist and will ask the court to imprison Karyn Maughan. I think it's quite a dark day. I think, there's a lot of avenues for people who are aggrieved with the media to take us to the press ombudsman or institute defamation suits. But when the day arrives when politicians want journalists jailed, I think that's a grave day, as we've seen all over the world. And I think that's why for us it wasn't a comfortable day. It's not nice to have the focus turned on us. We want to report, and we firmly believe that this case has absolutely no merit. It was reporting on court documents, and that this is an absolute abuse of the court's powers.
Your lawyers in the court papers that we've seen say that this is merely, just to paraphrase, it's merely a spectacle that's been created. What is the crux of the argument that's going to be made in bringing that urgent application to have this case scrapped?
So just to be clear, we don't want the private prosecution to even start. We don't want it to run in February, to which it was adjourned to today. We will come back to this court on the 8th of December, to which our application has been postponed, to argue that this is an abuse of power, that Mr. Zuma wants to intimidate, harass and bully Karyn Maughan into silence. Not only her, but all journalists reporting on this and other critical corruption matters. Karyn has been reporting on this case for over 20 years. She's very deeply involved and au fait with these matters in this case. We argue that he wants to silence her through bringing the spurious charges. Secondly, there's no nollie prosecute certificate for Karyn Maughan, so Mr. Zuma never went to the police like he did with Advocate Downer to open a criminal case actually against Karyn to get the NPA to make a decision. So there can't be a private prosecution against her, we will argue. And thirdly, we believe that Mr. Zuma doesn't have standing because he couldn't prove that that article she wrote from court papers that he and his lawyers filed at court actually caused an injury to him.
And just lastly, how will this impact your reporting? I mean, I say yours, I mean News 24's reporting on this matter, considering that this case is now going to drag on at least until December?
We will not be bullied by Mr. Zuma or any other politician. We will continue to report without fear or favour about his corruption case, about all the matters of state capture, irrespective of these attempts to silence us as journalists and to intimidate us. We will continue to report on them. We will be back here next week when Mr. Zuma's corruption trial, which it's really about, is back in court.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Rafiwa, so that was the word there from News 24. As we were talking about it earlier, there are lots of dynamics here. A short while ago, I spoke to the chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, Jacob Zuma, and he was, and I asked him just that question: what does he believe is the reasoning there when it comes to a journalist being in the dock? And he says that he believes that the media shouldn't be overreaching, and he also reiterated the province's support for the former president, and he says that that's why they are here as a show of force, excuse me, to show that they're standing behind Jacob Zuma.
Very interesting insights coming through from Adrian Basson there, Dasen, in that we need to remember this day, the day that we saw the threat to media freedom in South Africa. Senior reporter Dasen Thathiah, thank you very much for your time. That is senior reporter Dasen Thathiah. They're bringing us the very latest, or rather the court proceedings that took place this morning in Pietermaritzburg High Court.